What's good, y'all? I am Brother J, the movie monk, out here beating my movie meat, and this is Movie Mass. Welcome. Thanks for clicking the button, even though I said I was beating my movie meat. You did the right thing anyway. And let it never be said that your boy Jay spends irresponsible sums of money on Blu-rays and 4Ks. I do. It's true. This is the part that you should never let it be said. I actually watch this shit I buy. I don't just buy it. I watch this shit too. I unwrap it. Unlike all those fucking Funko Pops on Homeboy's wall. You know what I'm saying? You got that friend that has 1,000 Funko Pops, and what's the point? Even if he spent $5 on a Funko Pop, he got 1,000 of them. He spent $5,000, $10,000 on Funkos. I'm not about that life. I can't do it. I got to at least open my collectibles up, put them in a Blu-ray player, take them for a spin, you know what I mean? I've never been one to keep it in the package. I say whip it out. Whip out that movie meat and pop that movie meat in the Blu-ray player and give it a spin, y'all, you know what I'm saying? And just to prove it, I'm here to talk about some shit I watched last week. I know it's the middle of the week. I'm sorry. It was a long weekend. My kids were home for 4 straight days. What do you think? I got time to do this? No, I don't. I got a wife that does not give a fuck about my YouTube channel. So what am I doing? I'm waiting until everyone goes to bed. Here it is. I watched Happy Gilmore 2 last week. The week before, I watched Happy Gilmore 1 because I had picked it up on 4K. It had just come out on 4K the week before last week, so I still had Happy Gilmore on the brain. I had not watched part 2 yet. I was kind of waiting. I wanted to rewatch part 1 and then dig deep, look within, and see how I felt. And so I did wind up checking out part 2. I still felt very good in my heart about Happy Gilmore. And I had heard that Happy Gilmore 2 was not bad. That's what I'd heard. I haven't heard glowing things about it either, and I'm not here to tell you any glowing things about it. I'm here to say that it's not fantastic. I don't think it was terrible either. There were some funny gags. There's a lot of callbacks, but I think that's kind of trendy these days. You make a sequel 30 years after the original, people tend to throw in a lot of callbacks or a lot of references to the previous installment, a lot of knowing nods and winks at the viewer, because people tuning into Happy Gilmore 2 are fans of Happy Gilmore 1. I got a policy, though. I believe that sequels to movies that come out 25 years later are never good. If you have a good idea for a sequel and a willing cast, why would you wait? Why would you wait for decades? It doesn't make any sense why you would wait. If you've got a good idea and everybody's willing to make the movie, it should be a no-brainer. Waiting just seems arbitrary. After a certain point, people could pass away unexpectedly, people could be maimed, and hey, you know what I'm saying? Don't wait to make a sequel. Make it now. If you did wait decades to make a sequel, then that tells me that you didn't have a good idea and or you didn't have a willing cast. I think that's probably the case with Happy Gilmore 2, is that Adam Sandler simply kept moving. I mean, you've seen Happy Gilmore. The first movie's pretty well buttoned up. It doesn't really seem like there's a lot left that needs to be said about Happy Gilmore's life. I guess it's worth watching for morbid curiosity, but it doesn't hold a candle to the original Happy Gilmore, and that's all I got to say about that. I also watched a little movie from my unwatched pile called A Man Called Hero. If you guys watched my giant pile of unwatched movies video that I did, I don't know, several days or like a week or so ago, this was on that list, A Man Called Hero. It's a film that I had seen many, many years ago, but I have not revisited it recently. I bought this in a Vinegar Syndrome sale. I think I got this for like $17, which is really not a bad price for a Vinegar Syndrome VSA. It comes with a poster. It's got a nice slipcase, all of that stuff. The interior's got reversible artwork, so the carpet doesn't have to match the drapes, which I always appreciate. And this is a film I hadn't seen since, I don't know, about the year 2000. I watched it with my buddy Jimmy back in the day, R.I.P. Jimmy. He used to get a lot of bootlegs back then, and I believe this is a film that he acquired on a bootleg, and we watched it on some bootlegged VHS in the middle of one of our like editing classes in high school or some shit like that. And it's an interesting one. I will say that the CGI made me go, oof, you know, pretty hard. It's a lot worse than I remembered. I think at the time we might have been a little bit more forgiving on CGI simply because we hadn't seen how good it can be. It's a film that was released theatrically only 2 months after The Matrix, so you really can't explain stylistic similarities between A Man Called Hero and The Matrix by claiming that The Man Called Hero copied The Matrix. They were essentially produced during the same window of time. Also, this is shortly before Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon came out the next year. I think A Man Called Hero was released in '99, so was The Matrix. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon came in 2000. So I think more than that these films influence each other, it's really more that they're a part of a relatively cohesive movement in Hong Kong martial arts cinema, which I appreciate. It's fun watching this film and seeing some of the stuff. Both The Matrix and Crouching Tiger were choreographed by Yuen Woo-ping. There's a strong Hong Kong influence on both of those films, despite American production being involved. You know, you do see some kind of Matrix-y, it's not a very realistic, grounded kind of Jackie Chan. A human being, albeit a very athletic human being, can do all of these things that Jackie Chan does. You watch Rumble in the Bronx, and he does some incredible stunts, but none of it's outside of the realm of possibility, at least for somebody who's a supremely well-trained martial artist. When you watch something like A Man Called Hero, The Matrix, Crouching Tiger, you just have literal flying. You have people that are just so good at kung fu that physics no longer apply. They're essentially Superman. Maybe not bullets bouncing off of them like Superman, but certainly flying through the air and defying gravity, not really producing force with their leg muscles anymore. They just kind of take off. And so there is some of that in A Man Called Hero. So it's a little bit of more of a like a fantastic martial arts spectacle versus something that's choreographed in a more realistic way, which I think is fairly standard for Yuen Woo-ping. I think his style of choreography does tend to lean a little bit more on the wire work and allowing people to defy gravity a little bit more to do their stunts. And I've always appreciated his martial arts choreography in other films as well, like The Tai Chi Master and stuff like that. I think great movies there. He's worked with Jet Li a whole bunch of times. I do think A Man Called Hero is worth checking out if you haven't. Get it on sale during a Vinegar Syndrome sale and, you know, get it for 17 bucks, and this is well worth $17. Although I will say I feel like A Man Called Hero leaves a little bit to be desired. I'm forgiving the CGI elements, right? I'm just going to ignore how terrible those are. But I also feel like A Man Called Hero is at least two different movies that are kind of crammed together in a way that is kind of discordant, in a way that's not pleasant or doesn't work. Sometimes you can weave disparate ideas in together in a way that winds up being maybe, if not a masterpiece, at least something that's kind of fascinating and unique and actually kind of works. For A Man Called Hero, it's not, I don't think it works quite so well, the elements they smash together. I feel like A Man Called Hero works best in its first half, where it largely consists of a variety of characters relating their own subjective memories of Hero. It felt like a comic book martial arts version of Chan is Missing. And I really loved that element. I'm a fan of Chan is Missing as a film, but then taking that sort of Chan is Missing, you know, a hunt for this guy you can't find, and interviewing people trying to find him and getting these different portraits of what he's been up to, but having a comic book kind of martial arts spin on it, I thought was great. I thought it was a really great idea. I wish they had carried that through the whole film, honestly, because the back half is basically a martial arts superhero movie, And they really lean into the CGI pretty hard in the final scenes, and they should not have done that. CGI was not ready for them to have complete green screen, completely CGI everything. I mean, it was not up to par. It was not like Lucasfilm doing this shit. So, and I will also say that the back half of the movie left a lot of open threads, and not in the sense that they wanted to set up a sequel. It just feels like a lot of the subplots of the film were just left dangling. They were just left open, no real tying them up. Nothing was really buttoned up. It feels like a lot of stuff was left unbuttoned. And there was some movie meat hanging out. You know, it was unbuttoned. I could see the nudity a little bit, and it was not pleasant. Anyway, in a story where you have several characters that all kind of take turns filling in the story of a third-person hero with their experiences, you can afford a little bit of ambiguity. In fact, I think the ambiguity kind of works there because it demonstrates the way memory works. It shows you how people recollect certain things, and two different people can recollect the same thing a little bit differently. And, you know, there's a Rashomon element to that as well. But it works pretty well, the ambiguity in these flashbacks, that first hour. I would have been more forgiving of some of the subplots not tying up neatly. But in the back half, there's no more flashbacks. We're all done with that element. And now it's just the story taking place and finishing up, only it doesn't really quite finish. And I got blue balls on some of the subplots. Some of that B storyline, I got blue balls on it. So I guess that is what it is. They're probably not making a sequel to this bitch 30 years later. Anyway, I do recommend A Man Called Hero as an inexpensive VSA that you can add to your collection, and because it's a fascinating piece of 90s martial arts film history. Now, here's the stinker of the week. I watched Terror at Tenkiller. Of course, this is the last week of August, right? So I'm just trying to squeeze in my last couple of summertime and summer-related films. I mean, how do you like that cover? That cover art is nice on multiple different levels. I mean, you got her busting out of the water, and you really, like, I mean bust in both senses. Like, she is popping out of the water, but also she got a bust on her. And people like that on a slipcover. If I'm Joey Vinegar Syndrome, sitting on the board of Vinegar Syndrome, and I have to approve artwork to go on slipcovers, I'm approving this all day, every day. Look at that. I'm approving this and that. Look at all that. The dude's shadow is like cast over her with the knife. Don't you wish the movie was this good? And he's busting out of the water too, and he's got that knife raised, and he looks like he's about to just pounce on her. It's unfortunate because the movie is nowhere near as good as the slipcover would have you to believe. Anyway, this one was bad. For the life of me, I can't decipher why Vinegar Syndrome would put this piece of shit on 4K. People only watch this thing because it hits that so bad it's funny level of bad. It's terrible in like a watchable way. It feels very homemade. It's like watching one of the homegrown horror films. It really is about on that level of craftsmanship. There's not a lot of money behind this movie, and it shows, guys. The audio mix is to your ears as a cheese grater is to your dick. You don't want them coming into contact. It's painful. It might damage you for life. Anyway, the audio mix in this film, god-awful. God-awful audio mix. And there's this terrible voiceover and barely any titties in the whole movie. There's like one tit real quick at one point, get a little bit of the nip, and then there's like half a tit. So there's not even 2 titties in this movie. It's 1.5 titties. And so I give this movie 1.5 titties. Get this on sale if you can get it for $10. Otherwise, like, see if you could steal the slipcover from one of your friends. Go over to one of your friends, go down into his basement, admire his fake fireplace, and then steal his slipcover, because that's really all you need. You don't need anything underneath that slipcover. Look at that. I need to swap this out so the carpet doesn't match the drapes. I would have liked to have figured out if the carpet matched the drapes on this broad, but you get to see just one titty. There's a little shower scene at the beginning with one boobie, and it's just a shame because they really should have included both boobies. At any rate, Here's the real winner for last week. I want to show you guys this. This is the real winner for last week. This one was even better than I expected. And I was expecting this one to be good. This is Cloak and Dagger, y'all. I know you can read. Look, there you go. Cloak and Dagger. And this 4K looks really damn fine. It is a damn fine 4K. Anyway, the story is actually a lot of fun. I was expecting it to be kind of a fun adventure, a little bit of a romp. It feels like a time capsule. Obviously, this movie came out mid-'80s. I think this is '84. So it's a time capsule to like an earlier era. It has this retro gaming aesthetic that I love, which of course was not retro at the time. This shit was cutting edge back then, but it's got a lot of like the Atari kind of visual, you know, he's carrying around a game cartridge, and they call it a tape. The whole movie, they call this game cartridge a tape. They're like the Atari tape or whatever. It sounds very much like how my grandparents would speak. But there's the slipcover from the inside of the Vinegar Syndrome Ultra limited edition. I hope you got this because this is out of print now, sucker. So if you ain't got this, you missed out on a really great edition of a really great movie. But so you can see how it's got that old school Atari kind of feel to it, to the graphic design. There's a lot of imagery like that in this film. And so it does have that kind of time capsule feel. You have also here an element of kids having to evade adults who actually mean them real, lasting harm. And I'm not sure you get a lot of that these days. It feels like back in the 80s, 70s probably too, you could legitimately have movies about grown-ass men actually trying to murder 8-year-olds, which just kind of feels wild to go back and watch. Like my wife and I were watching Cloak and Dagger and both like, it's a little girl. It's like an 8-year-old girl and like a 9-year-old boy. And like people are legit trying to murder these two children. Like grown-ups are trying to end their lives, and that just feels so extreme. I know there are movies like Nosferatu, the recent Nosferatu, 2 little girls get ganked by Count Orlok in that movie, and I understand. It's not like they stopped killing kids in movies. They still kill kids in movies. I don't love that they do that. That was a difficult part of Nosferatu for me to watch, me having 2 daughters and all. I was like, oh shit, he came for the 2 little girls. But what I'm trying to say is that that was an adult horror film that was very much intended for adults. That had vampire dick in it and everything. Cloak and Dagger is a different animal altogether and aimed at a wholly different audience. And other films of the same era, like The Goonies, it is another film where there are adults that are after children that are like legitimately trying to cause harm and or death to these children. And it just feels like The Goonies, Cloak and Dagger, those are over here, and Nosferatu is like over there. So it does feel like it's a little bit more wild with like the pseudo family films back then. I'm like, yeah, there's a family movie about a guy trying to murder some children. He enlists a couple of his buddies, they get newsy. They're coming after the kids, they're trying to murder them. The kids have to try not to get murdered for 2 hours. Isn't this fun? Don't you want to watch that as a family film? It's just wild. I mean, like 40-year-olds with Uzis are patrolling a park at night with the sole intention of pumping a little boy full of lead. These bad guys are bad. I mean, it really does help them to seem like bad guys. They deserve what happens to them. You know, at that point, you're kind of like, well, innocence is lost here. I mean, I didn't shoot anybody in the fucking head when I was 8, but little Davy sure did. The sequel is full of PTSD. The sequel to Cloak and Dagger is full of PTSD. This kid is still in therapy. The bad guys really are very bad, though, in this movie. They don't ever question the morality of murdering children. They actually argue that they should be paid extra for murdering a kid. There is dialogue in this film where the guy says, we should get extra for doing the kid, too. Anybody younger than 18, you got to pay me extra to pop a kid. It's wild. These bad guys are not good people, so when they die on screen, you're like, all right, cool. Yeah, go Davey. Way to get your first human kill there, buddy. There's an additional story element that I was not expecting from Cloak and Dagger. It's not exactly coming of age. That's more of like teenagers crossing over into adulthood. But in this film, it's like end of childhood type of theme that comes across in the back half of the movie. Sure, adults trying to murder you with Uzis. that's enough to put an end to your childish, innocent naivete. But there's an element of like imagination and play to the character Davy here. He's a child and he's able to fully engage in this imaginary world, this world of play, of excitement and adventure that he concocts for himself. Like most children, he's able to fully engage in this world in the beginning of the movie, but by the end, not so much. He essentially leaves behind his childhood in this film. We watch him lose that particular joie de vivre, and that kind of hit me in the feels a little bit, actually, because even though it's prompted by machine gun wielding men trying to kill him, it still nonetheless feels like kind of a natural course that every child goes through, that every child, as a part of their growing up, their burgeoning adolescence, that coming of age that is yet to come for him in the future. It does feel like this is just kind of a natural part of his getting older, is the loss of that sort of childish, just love of play and intense imagination. I definitely rue the day that my own girls leave behind their enthusiasm for play and toys and childish things. And I had to go snuggle with my oldest daughter after this movie. I'm not gonna lie, I had to go snuggle her because it kind of hit me in the feels a little bit. I didn't expect that. Finally this week I watched We Can Be Heroes on Netflix. I got kids, what do you want from me? At least it's not K-pop Demon Hunters, motherfucker. Even though I'm listening to the music from that movie constantly still. When we get in the car or when we go out to play on the swings, they're like, play K-pop Demon Hunters while we run around the backyard, Daddy. So, you know, what can I do? Like I said, I got a little emotional over the thought of my own girls growing up and leaving behind their childhood. So, fuck it, I'll play K-pop Demon Hunters a little bit longer. I'm gonna drink this one for you fools. Is your name in that list? If not, what's wrong with you? What's the matter with you, huh? What's the matter with you? What did I tell you, huh? Catch you on the flippy dippy. Peace, I love you. Ooh,